chief guest for the occasion, Justice Sri Jasti Chelameswar Garu. He was born in Krishna district, Andhra Pradesh. After completing his schooling in Machilipatnam, he enrolled at Loyola College, Chennai, and obtained a bachelor's degree in science with physics as his major subject. He then studied law and obtained an LLB from Andhra University, Visakhapatnam in 1976. He served as an additional judge at the then High Court of Andhra Pradesh. Later, he became the Chief Justice of Guwahati High Court in 2007. He was later transformed as the Chief Justice of the Kerala High Court. He has done exemplary work on the green benches in both Guwahati and Kerala. He was later elevated as a judge, Supreme Court of India in October 2011. He retired on 22nd June 2018 as the second most senior Supreme Court judge. He has delivered several landmark judgments while in the top court. I now invite Justice Jasti Chelameswar Garu to address us. A warm welcome to you, sir.
Thank you, Shilpa. Good evening to you all. At the outset, I must express my gratitude to Mr. Arvind Reddy for conferring this honor on me to be the chief guest on this occasion of the 6th Mr. SJaipalReddy Memorial Lecture. Well, I have a association with late Mr. SJaipalReddy, which defies definitions. I can't say he was my friend because we are not of the same age, we didn't go to the same school, didn't go to the same college. I didn't go to the parliament, he didn't come to the High Court, but I had interaction with him. We have common friends. Then, of course, I was a little active in politics for some time in my life, in the 80s. At that point of time, of course, politics, when I say not electoral politics, I never contested an election, but then I was involved with a political party. In that context, there were occasions when I met late Mr. SJaipalReddy. We had pleasant exchange of ideas, exchange of information. Well, it was a pleasant time. I remember him very fondly. And by the time I got to know him, he was a prominent man. By then he had contested again as late Mrs. Gandhi, lost the election. Though he lost the election, and that put him on the Indian political map. He was too big a man by then, by the time I got to know him, when I was a nobody. Well, it is a fitting topic chosen by the organizers to commemorate late Mr. SJaipalReddy's memory. He was a Democrat in the real sense of it, not in form, but the content. Unfortunately, we have come to a stage in this country, that's at least, these are my personal views. I may be wrong, I may be right, but then any Democrat should accept views, even if they disagree. And remember that famous statement, I may not agree with a word of what you say, but I should protect your right to say so. So in that spirit, if people take what I'm going to say today. See, I believe we are at a stage in this country, the political situation. I think, are mistaking form for content. Mr. Rajkumar was mentioning about the survey conducted by the Economist, and then of course he gave the details and all. And the basic factors, indices which were chosen by them for determining the vitality of democracies across the world. Well, they are going by the text. They are the right things. The question is how vibrant and effective these factors are in our country today. When we are talking about celebrating democracy, first of all, let us talk about this country. We can talk about the rest of the world later. Now, I may put it in my own way. As a student of constitutional law, when somebody talks about democracy or when I talk about democracy, I keep the following factors in mind. That there is a periodic election process to choose the representatives for making the laws. Second, such chosen representatives make the laws which are rational and consistent with certain core values enshrined in the constitution which we adopted some 70 years back. Then, that the authority of the state, the jurisprudential state, I'm not talking about the geographical state, the authority of the state is divided between three organs of the state machinery: the lawmaking institutions, the law enforcing institutions, and the adjudicatory bodies which, under the Indian constitutional scheme, like many other constitutional schemes, is entrusted with the responsibility of assessing the constitutionality of the laws made by the lawmaking bodies. Now, the other factor which is very relevant in making an assessment of the true nature of the democracy of a particular country at a particular point of time, that these three organs of authority of the state perform their duties uninfluenced by the other two organs. Each one of these organs should function uninfluenced by the other organs of the state. The fourth and most important, all this arrangement is meant for the people of this country. That the people enjoy under this system of democracy certain inalienable rights. The purpose of creating all these systems, the purpose of running all these systems is to make sure ultimately people of the country enjoy those rights. Well, these are my tests to determine whether it's this country or some other country, whether there is a democracy and how healthy that democracy is. Now, I always believed, maybe wrongly sometimes, but I believed that we Indians secured, rather, I don't know what is the word that I should employ, whether we secured it, we got it, or it was imposed on us, got a fine Western model of democracy and a predominantly feudal society. By the time we adopted the constitution, this was a predominantly feudal society. 70 years later, its structure might have changed to some extent, but it still continues to be a feudal society according to me. The hierarchical systems, without meaning any offense to anybody or anything, just to drive home the point, to say it's a feudal system. Whenever we watch the swearing in ceremony of a cabinet of at any level, the state or thing, most of the honorable ministers, quite a good number of them, not all of them. We have excellent, some of them are excellent members. The first public act is to bow at the feet of their leader. I think there's a clear index of the feudal systems. Now, take it up a little bit. Point is, if we examine these various aspects which I mentioned as the indices of democracy in this country, are we to really celebrate or not is the question. The second president of America, John Adams, in some context made a famous statement. Remember that a democracy never lasts long. It soon wastes itself. There wasn't a democracy which did not commit suicide, is it? But he was not an ordinary man, but not because he was the president of America, but he was a man who fought the war against the empire. We had a great experience behind him. Now, there is an element of truth, a great deal of truth in this. Yes, do we celebrate democracy today after Amrit Mahotsav that's going on in this country? The first test is we do have periodic elections. However flawed the electoral process is, however undesirable some of the practices which are adopted in the elections are, we still have a regular electoral system, this kind of periodic election to choose the representatives of the people. We must really be happy about it. We must celebrate that. Of course, the process should be more refined and more and less unwholesome. But that's the goal. Nothing is achieved overnight. It's an effort that should go on. But all of us know, if you want to make it more specific, a few years back while I was still in Delhi, there was some occasion like this. 150 people we gathered there, and each one of them was either holding a public office, a very high public office in this country at that point of time, or just laid down a very high public office sometime prior to that. And a man, incidentally, has some connection with Andhra Pradesh, Mr. Kumar, who was the former Chief Election Commissioner of India, who belonged to the AP, the undivided AP cadre, IAS officer. He made a statement. People spend 40-50 crores to get elected to the parliament. He made a statement. And it's a statement coming from not a person on the street, somebody who held a very, very and very, very relevant position in the context of elections. Then what happened thereafter, I am not going into all those things. So therefore, the process is not a certainly very wholesome process, but the process is there. So let us not confuse between the form and content. It should be better. But nonetheless, we are still retaining the form is something which should make us happy. We should make us celebrate and try to improve it. Then coming to the law-making process. Well, what is the level of debate that goes on in the lawmaking bodies regarding I'm not talking about the zero hours and questions and the mutual mudslinging by rival political, I'm not talking about it. I'm talking about the proper lawmaking process. What kind of debate that goes on while making the law. Voting, of course, is taken. Voting is done, and then under the 10th schedule, if a member of a political party does not vote in accordance with the VP should, he would face consequences. Therefore, voting is always takes place. But what exactly is the nature of the debate? Ultimately, when we're talking about democracy, people, the representatives of the people, debate the strengths and weaknesses of the proposed legislation, and come to a conclusion in the interest of the people of the country. Though in this area, in my opinion, having my own experience and having watched the process, this lawmaking process, it requires much to be desired. It is not, the debate is not really satisfactory most of the time. Then, the third aspect of the matter is whether the three organs of the constitutional machinery, the lawmaking bodies, the law enforcing machinery, and the adjudicatory bodies, how independent each one of these units are of the other two. Well, insofar as the lawmaking bodies are concerned, world over, not only in this country, the advent of party politics made them less independent. The minute somebody gets elected to a lawmaking body, as I told you, it's not peculiar to India, anywhere. The elected representative is bound by a certain code of conduct of the organization which puts him in the body. It's the organization called party. So, first of all, that takes some degree of the independence of the elected member. Not necessarily that every member subscribes to the principle on the basis of which a particular legislation is being made, but then he is bound by the party discipline. That's one factor. It has its own flip side. Why it should be so? Why it could not be otherwise? We have seen a lot of problems there. Then these bodies, the lawmaking bodies in a party system like this, when there are periods of history where very strong personalities occupy the top seat, most of the time they simply become, though parliament in theory or the state legislature in theory is supposed to hold the executive answerable to every act the executive does, that authority is hardly ever exercised. The minute the executive takes a decision and seeks to implement the decision, in the name of the party discipline, necessarily the executive belongs to the majority party. Therefore, majority members don't raise the question. And of course, the members of the opposition raise questions, sometimes relevant, sometimes irrelevant questions. The basic debate and proper logical analysis is missing there. Coming to the role of the law enforcing agencies, so-called bureaucracy, that is, I heard a number of former civil servants, celebrated people, who are otherwise people with great track record and reputation, saying that the bureaucracy is much less independent than what it used to be in earlier years. Now, coming to the judiciary, well, I don't want to make any further statement today. I've quoted enough controversy. I leave it to the gathering to make its own assessments about this matter. I'll come to the last aspect, that is the liberties of the people. Now, there are many fundamental rights guaranteed under the Constitution. The right to association, right to free movement, so on and so on. But the core is the freedom of speech and the liberty. I think they are the core of these liberties. The right not to be unduly restrained, or simply put, not to be imprisoned without following the irrational process of law, and the right to speak freely. These two liberties constitute the core of all liberties under any constitutional democratic government. Now, I'm conscious of that famous Churchillian statement, where there is a great deal of free speech, there is bound to be a certain amount of foolish speech. I'm conscious of it. But toleration for that foolish speech is part of democracy. Question is, when the speech becomes vicious, it crosses the limit and then democracy itself is in danger. I am afraid, I think we are approaching that stage, that debate in all public fora. Why public fora? Mr. Sriram was talking about the civil society, WhatsApp groups, the kind of debate that goes on in WhatsApp groups. Well, is slowly turning vicious. We are not debating issues, we are debating personalities and their private lives, even in public sphere, on questions of public matters. Now, anyway, question is, even otherwise, yes, yesterday I participated in another event yesterday in this city. A few prominent public men also participated. In fact, three of them are ministers of three different states. One was a former union minister. They all appeared in the newspapers. I'm not mentioning the names. And another is a sitting member of the parliament who has been a member of the parliament for 3 or 4 terms. I forgot exactly how many terms he was there. Each one of them, not all of them, at one exception, rest of them, in the course of their interaction in the program, made a very apologetic statement. Mind you, there's 3 of them are sitting ministers of different states, and one is a member of the parliament, sitting member of the parliament. Had to preface their statement saying, look here, I'm not anti-national, but then I have to say this. If we have reached a stage in this country of a sitting member of a cabinet of a particular state or any state is to preface his statement, make a declaration that he is not anti-national, I don't know what is the quality of free speech we are enjoying today in this country. Now, I'm not blaming a particular political party or a particular individual or anybody. But then this happened over a period of 75 years. We were brought to that stage. We have come to a stage. In fact, Mr. Jaipal Reddy, who is a few years older than me, I think 6-7 years older than me, I'm not very sure, maybe 8 years. All of us belong to that generation which went through the drill of the emergency, when people were a little worried about speaking politics, even in drawing rooms. I remember as an youngster, 1975, in this city, I was in a private dinner, I was an youngster, a few elders were there. A few elders included a sitting MLA of those days and a sitting judge of those days. There was some discussion, and then with all the exuberance of a youngster, I made some statement. The other gentleman, they were all personally related to me. The gentleman who was an MLA cautioned me, "Hey, young fellow, you better be careful, don't talk like this outside." He was a sitting MLA of the then ruling party. So this was the atmosphere of those days. Now, from drawing rooms in a public platform, sitting ministers are to prepare their statements that they are not anti-national. This is something really painful. This is something really painful, and it doesn't augur well for a democracy. Now, these are all the problems of, in fact, my dear friend, Jasti Reddy, must have logged in. He was one of the common friends, because I was introduced to that Mr. Jaipal Reddy by him. He is logged in. And he by political philosophy, he was a Lokiite. I believe he told me, I never read this statement, he told me something. I believe Dr. Lohia frequently used to comment that the English knowing gentlemen of this country are the problem of this country. So most of these problems which I have discussed are the problems of the English knowing gentlemen. Dr. Kumar, Sriram and Chelameswar and all this. The real problem is the problem of the non-English speaking people of this country. What are they doing? From their point of view, how well this democracy is serving them. irrespective of the parties, which parties were in power in Delhi, Hyderabad, Vijayawada. I'm not about that. Yes, from their point of view, as Rajkumar was pointing out in the last 70 years, with all the flaws which we have been discussing so far, thanks to great technocrats, great scientists, men of great engineering skills, this country did achieve some degree of progress. As Rajkumar was mentioning, there were 20 universities, those days there were 1,000 universities. All of us remember, I think more or less all of us belong to the same age group, if not the same age. When we were traveling by trains, and as students of the college, trains ran late, not by hours, sometimes even by days. Making a trunk call was a pain, to a long distance call. Now we can talk to anybody across the globe. That facility is available in this country, not only to the English knowing gentlemen, but even non-English speaking people. If I remember right, there are some 200 million mobile phones available in this country. That's what I read sometime back. Maybe the number has gone up of late.
A billion. A billion plus. A billion plus, sir.
Yeah. Now, similarly, education facilities, as Rajkumar was pointing out, have increased. More number of people are getting educated. But the ultimate question is poverty and hunger wiped off from this country under the democracy? The answer appears to be no. Still, large number of people are poverty stricken. I know there is no magic by which anybody, any government, even if you and Mr. Rajkumar and Sriram become the prime ministers or rulers of this country, we can't do it overnight. I am conscious of the fact. But is the effort going on in the right direction or not is the question. That's a matter which requires, and in making that assessment and making it possible, those who believe that they are Democrats, those who believe in democracy, do have a great role to play to ensure that the fruits of democracy, the ultimate goal of the constitutional democracy in this country. Please remember, the Indian Constitution enshrines certain principles for which the whole system is erected, the directive principles. The purpose of the whole system is to achieve that. The preamble says the purpose of the Constitution is to secure justice, social, political, and economic. Now, if we are talking about democracy, and if we are remembering Mr. Jaipal Reddy, the greatest tribute we can pay to him is to incessantly work to make it possible that the goals enshrined in the preamble of the Constitution are achieved, and the effort is continuously made. And with this, I think I should conclude. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your association and interaction with Jaipal Reddy Garu, who is a true Democrat and raising the issues that we face today with reference to lawmaking, law enforcing, and adjudicatory bodies, and emphasizing the importance of them that is operating independently with the required code of conduct to be followed. The core topic that comes to everyone when we hear the freedom of speech is dissent. How tolerant are we to dissent? Why does the state see dissent as a threat? It is important to discuss democracy and dissent, which is the need and the threat everyone is aware about.